since Dr. Cruz, you know about blue light. Number one, we're light beings. We are needing the sunlight. We get deprived of that, so we need to be getting as much sunlight, and especially in the morning hours as we can, because that's when, you know, it gets our cortisol up, wakes us up for the morning. Kids today stay in caves all day long in front of the blue light. You need to get them outside in the sunlight in the morning. It will help your sleep. At night, when the sun goes down, we're not supposed to have all these lights.
We're supposed to go to bed.
Supposed to go to bed. You know, our ancestors did that, but you know, we're sitting up working on our stuff on the computer or on your phone, which are blue screens, lighting your brain up. Those just tear up your melatonin, totally destroys your melatonin, interferes with your sleep. There are apps on the phone and on computer that you can put on that help a little bit. It's called F-Lux, and then there's Iris, and there's a couple others that kind of make a shady color, kind of orangey color on your screen, and that helps a little bit. But what I recommend is using blue blockers. There's all different kinds. These are the ones I'll just typically wear, like when I'm reading at night, bed. And
Cute.
these are really cool. They're blue-green blockers. So with this, everything is red. You want to see what that looks like? Pass it around. And I've got, you know, 3 or 4 different styles here, but use those in the evening if you're working on a screen. If you have to read, you can't use those. I just could not read anything with those. But because it takes away everything but the red. But those will protect your melatonin. So use that, and then when you go in your bedroom, you know, take them off when you turn your lights off. Use amber or gold or red lights wherever you can, night lights or anything like that. I think the Himalayan salt lamps are okay.
They're wonderful.
They're fine for that, you know, for getting through the house at night, but don't turn on light. You've just wiped out your melatonin. And like I said, we've got to protect our brains, and a lot of times there are associations with, you know, Alzheimer's and hyperactivity and all these others because of blue light. So it's real important that we get the sunlight in the morning, get rid of the blue light in the evening.
Okay, but some of the Himalayan salt lamps have LED lights in them now.
Well, I
That's
would
bad.
get one that you can just put a regular old incandescent nightlight bulb in it. Now, stay away from LEDs, stay away from fluorescents, because they, number one, generate a lot of dirty electricity. And they're blue light. They're damaging for our eyes, and they're damaging for our whole body. Our body has photoelectric, you know, reception. So when you think you're just covering your eyes, your whole body's exposed. One thing Dr. Cruz says is, and I did this one time, it scared everybody, you're supposed to block everything from the blue light. So I got like a hoodie and switched it up like that, and then put the glasses on. I look like the Unabomber. So, but that's what he says you really need to do to protect yourself. So that's what you can do to protect yourself from the blue light. And just always remember that if you can't do anything else, start it there. You know, if you
But
have a
wait,
tape, which
so if we have a shirt on, our pajamas or something, that's protected, but the
pretty
skin
much.
that's not.
It's just, you know,
Okay.
all the exposed skin. And it's same with the
So
sunlight.
don't use the computer where you're naked.
Well, but be out in the sun naked.
Oh, yeah.
Get out in the sun, get your exercise in the morning, get out. If you do a sauna, you know, that's good. And take cold showers. Cold showers are really good for the body. And once you get used to them, you like them. I do.
I'm getting used to mine.
Yeah.
2 minutes at least.
Yeah, they have places now you can go to. I know they have them in Austin. I don't know about in Houston. I'm sure they do. They have cryotherapy.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, we.
I highly recommend that. For your mitochondria, it likes something called hormesis, which means you're stressing it a little bit, but you're stressing it in a little way so it gets stronger. It's kind of like when you lift weights. You stress that muscle so it gets stronger. Well, hormesis, red light therapy, which we'll talk about that. Red light therapy, saunas, cold showers.
So when we
a lot of
wash
other-
our face, like maybe at night to take our makeup off, should we use cold water?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
If you can, like, just splash, I mean, he recommends doing it for several minutes, but the more you can, I mean, I go out and I turn my shower on because it's cold right away and then it starts to warm up. So I go in there and just do it right away, right out of the sauna. It's just like,
Yeah, it does.
He does things like a big tub with ice in it and sits in there for 4 hours.
Oh, really?
That's what we build up to. And, there's a guy, he's really cool, if you ever look him up, called Wim Hof.
Yeah, we're not, that's man.
And he does all sorts of things that are really good for your mitochondria. And one of them is the cold plunges, he's naked in the sunlight, but he also does a lot of breathing exercises that are really good, holding your breath. And those are all W-I-M, Wim, and it's H-O-F, Hof. He's a real character.
Really say he's cool.
He's a cool character.
Yeah.
He's real, very extroverted.
They call him the Ice Man.
Yeah, he's cool.
They call him the Ice Man. He lives on YouTube.
We talked about smart homes, smart meters, a lot of people have those, and it's like real frustrating because they won't take them off. You can plead and beg and make noises and they won't do it because they don't want to come read your meter. I was fooled by mine because I have a smart meter on my house, but it looks like an analog. But they don't read it. I can look online and see my electricity all the time. So they do have, and that was another thing that was in that bag of stuff, was the catalog of Less EMF is a company I recommend, and I've got it on your notes there. Less EMF, they have every kind of imaginable shielding kind of equipment. There's a cage you can put over or you can build one, but a cage that you put around the meter that will kind of block a lot of that. It's a little bit costly, that's the only problem. Most of the shielding stuff is made with materials that are costly. Fabrics are made with silver wire, so they get a little costly. But that's the only way you can really protect yourself is to shield. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. So we talked about your bed. If you've got a bad old mattress, my mattress was 47 years old when I bought my new mattress. But I went to a natural mattress company and I bought the best mattress I could find. It was a natural foam and it had no metal in it. It was, wood frame, all the things I could possibly get. I paid dearly for it. Got it home, got it set up, laid in that bed that night, and I felt like I was being electrocuted and I had a horrible migraine and I could smell something on it. So it was off-gassing. Even this natural, wonderful bed was
The
off-gassing.
phone will off
Well, it's not
Foam.
that kind of foam. This is natural latex. It's rubber. It's not supposed to. But I've heard other people have sensitivities to latex that way, natural latex.
There is a law, which we don't really know about in the United States, that it requires fireproofing of all bedding products. It's been since the 1950s. And thank you, tobacco industry, because people were catching fire in their bed. So
Flame retardants.
the flame retardant, and there are various kinds, has to be able to take a full torch flame for 90 seconds in, I believe, a 3-foot range, that it will not catch fire. And anything coming in, like from China or anywhere else, it requires no labeling. And antimony is one of the cheapest ones that they use. And this spring, I bought 2 new pellets. They came from China. I didn't think much about it. And I ended up with antimony poisoning because they probably did not process the antimony into the flame retardant properly. My husband's a geologist and I got all of this explanation. But I don't know if you all remember, we had Stuart Martenstein here, the chiropractor. He got it immediately that I had toxic poisoning and my joints were hurting. And I know good and well if I talked to my internal medicine physician, they would put me on prednisone and said, well, you used to be blonde.
Well, it took me 3 months before I could sleep in my bed.
I believe.
And I
Wait,
aired it,
so what
aired
did
it,
you
aired it,
do?
aired it.
So you
aired it.
still have
I
the
went
bed?
back to them and I said, this bed is off gassing. He says, that's impossible. I'm sorry. So I bought all kind of extra protection pads and aired it out and did everything I could. until I could finally sleep on it, but I still have sleep issues with everything that I do, so I'm sure it's the bed.
Did you ask them if they flame retarded it and didn't tell you? Because they don't have to.
Oh, I know. I studied a training with a lady named Laura Adler, I don't know if you've ever heard of her. She teaches a whole training on toxics. toxic
That
elements.
sounds like one of the references.
I'm not
I mean, I just
graduates, yeah.
constantly.
She's always studying this.
So did you get one of those, mattress protectors that you zip up so it doesn't let lice and bugs and everything in?
Oh, I have so many layers on that bed you would not imagine. And
And
it's
that
very
helps?
comfortable, it's very comfortable, and I can sleep fine on it, but I still do not get good sleep. And there's something, and I don't know if you can see, my eyes are puffy. It
Yes.
stays that way. I can't ever get that to go away. So there's some sort of histamine reaction to something. It's not critters, I've had everything checked on it, but there's something that's still off-gassing. So there's a lot of chemistry in the house that affects your sleep too. And that's kind of going, out of the topic, but, sleep is so important. It's the best way we can defend ourselves against 5G. And what I was gonna say is the springs that are in spring mattresses, those act like an antenna. So you don't want spring mattresses.
So you want
Get a
us,
wood bed.
so what kind of mattress are we supposed to have? Like, in Europe, I think they have, down-filled mattresses.
Some people are allergic to feathers.
Down.
There's the company that I'm doing the course with, this
Mhm.
company GeoVital, they actually make a mattress,
Mhm.
but you have to take a loan out. Very expensive, but it is the quintessential
So
mattress.
can we just get rid of the box springs?
Well, I would get rid of the box springs, make, platform bed,
Right.
but I don't know what your mattress
But
is.
inside the mattress, there's
Yeah.
also springs. Oh.
Well, no, not necessarily springs, but
Oh.
there's chemicals and
Oh,
other stuff.
chemicals, yeah.
So, yeah, there's hazards around us everywhere, and it'll make you crazy. Just trying to avoid everything. Your cleaning supplies, your personal care supplies, scents everywhere you go. You walk in a bathroom and they at you, when you don't want them to. It's just, you can't get away from it.
It sounds like all of the above we've been talking about is actually attacking the immune system.
It is. All these things are attacking. We are all immunocompromised. We are. And the other thing that I was gonna talk about was dirty electricity. That's what kind of brought me into this world. I went through my house and I have the tri-field meter, which this is probably the most, the most affordable, typical meter you can use around your house, just to find what's close to you that's electromagnetic. It measures electrical fields, magnetic fields. It's called the EMF meter model TF2. It's tri-field meter. And it's a good thing to have. There's some other meters. This little Coronet meter, Nick Pinot, which is the EMF guy, he recommends this one to carry with you, like if you're going to hotels and you want to find out, make sure there's no routers in your room. Going to hotels, you cannot avoid every kind of hazard in the world in a hotel room. But this will tell you, because sometimes they'll put a router right under your bed.
You charge it with your computer, is that
Yeah.
how you charge it?
Yeah. And it's very simple. It just has lights. It goes from green to red. This is the cheapest route to go.
So,
There's,
may I see that?
sure, pass these around if you want. And, like I said, these are reportable meters, under $200 or $300, where the ones that professionals use are thousands. And what I love about GeoVital, there's two companies that do this kind of work. One is called Bow Biologists. They do assessment of everything in your house. They do chemicals and other things besides just EMFs. GeoVital is pretty much strictly EMFs and electromagnetic. So they both have values, but GeoVital goes into a lot more detail on shielding and bedding. Yes.
What did you just say, the one that goes through your house and can tell you, what did you just say, what did you call it?
Bow biology.
Bow Biologists. It's
on the last page.
BAU, it's on that last page.
That's
Bow
the one
Biologists.
that is the best to
Yeah,
have them.
it's on your
Well,
handout.
it measures the fields and stuff, ambient fields. What I like about GeoVital is they have a meter that, when you lay in your bed, they have you touch it and it reads what your body's getting. So they actually measure the health of your body rather than just the fields around you. So that's why I went with them first. I still want to do the biobiologist training, but and I've done some of their classes. But the GeoVital is what I'm doing now. I'm doing their online course. If I wanted to take the hands-on course, it's in Austria.
Well, we need a biologist in our group, so I encourage you to
There aren't any
keep
that I know
going.
of.
There's not any, there's some in Florida, but I don't know of anybody here in Houston.
Well, there's a guy that comes, and he came to Austin, he's not the biologist, he's a geovital, and his name is Brian Hoyer, and, he's the one that came to my house. And he came to Austin, and he kinda does a tour, I think he's in Kentucky or Missouri or one of the other states.
And he does exactly what, test your house.
He starts from the outside and checks the fields and stuff around your house, and then he comes in and checks all the fields in your house, electromagnetic, electrical, everything. And then he writes up an assessment and makes suggestions. And, one of the things, and I don't have a picture of it.
For altering whatever.
To augment it. They also do, the geopathic stresses in your house, because they're measuring your bed. They use, looks like wire tie things, to do their measuring with. I would use mine. But, because those things kind of flip all over the place. But they measure and they lay out a yardstick to show the direction of all the fields. And they sell a pad that actually you put under your bed to block any of those detrimental energies, because they don't do like we do with, changing it. Even though he's a dowser. He's actually a nutritionist and a dowser. He's a really cool guy. But what he suggested for me, because I had some geopathic issues, so I got a mat from my bed, and then I have something called, or everybody has something called dirty electricity. The things that cause it the most, besides a smart meter, and we talked about fluorescent lights and LED bulbs, wall warts, like what you plug in to charge your phones and all that. Those things generated, anything that has a switching system, like energy saver mode, where it switches back and forth, those kind of things create dirty electricity. And then sometimes it's just bad wiring. That's my problem. I have all the above. So I got rid of all my LED and fluorescent bulbs and went back to incandescents. That did a great deal of change. The other thing that's a big factor in it, I don't see them in this room, maybe there, yeah, a dimmer. A dimmer switch puts off enormous amounts of dirty electricity. And that's where the issues were in my house, the big issues, that I went and had them all taken out. There's a couple of them I had to leave because that's the only way it would control. But I had gone through the house, and this meter here is called an EMI meter, and you plug this into your outlet, and it will give you numbers of what your wiring is reading. You want it below 30. That's the at least 30 or below. You want that's the ideal. A lot of times you'll get 1200. I mean, it's amazing how much in the wiring it really. Let's see, we've got a 12.
There's one over here, and there might be one over back there. Over here.
You would think there'd be one. There used to be one that you had to have them every 7 foot. Oh, that's it. No, that's phone now. I can't believe they don't have electrical. There it is. Okay. So.
Check behind it, see if there's a plug.
So I plugged this in, and this reads 1377. And you hear the noise of it. It's 1377. So that's reading frequency that's really bad. They have these filters. This one is, there's a couple different companies. I do Greenway filters because they have an outlet you can plug into. But these are, that's measuring the frequency that's dirty electricity. Dirty electricity is stuff that's feeding back on the wires and causing disturbances.
Okay, but only if something's plugged into that plug, or
Well,
just
it's
if
in the
it's
wall.
there?
It's in the wiring in your
Do
walls.
you have anything plugged in it right now?
No, it's in, you have something called current that runs when things are turned on, which that's what it's measuring. Even if you turn the power off, you still have voltage. and it will
I
read
know,
that.
but is it less?
No. Turning the power off doesn't get rid of it. I like to use a power strip because then I can put more than one filter on it. Putting one filter on takes that down to It's still 50, it takes it down to 50, 54 from 1300. If I put 2 filters in,
What kind of filter is it called?
takes it down to 28. These are called Stetzer filters.
Stetzer?
Yeah, the company, this company, there's 2 companies that sell these. One's called Stetzer, and they don't have the outlet on them. And then there's this Green Wave. Green Wave is where I get all my stuff. I like Green Wave.
Wave or wave?
Wave. Green Wave.
Green wave filters.
And so that took it down to 29 from 1377. So I went around my house and I used these filters, took 14 filters in my house to clean up the electricity in my house. But then I went outside and I realized that I had a plug outside that was on a switch in the house. And so I thought, and my sauna was plugged into it, so I said, well, I need to check that one. So when I plugged it in, it was way over the top like that. And so I only had 2 filters and it wasn't even making a dent in it. So that's all I had left. Now I've got a lot of filters, but I didn't have enough to mitigate it. So I said, well, I'll deal with it tomorrow. So I went in the house and I laid down on the bed, and I have an earth mat on my bed. And I laid on that bed and I felt like I was being electrocuted and my brain literally shut off. I had to force myself to think to get out of bed and walk over there and turn the switch off. And the switch was hot. If I had just gone to bed, either my house would have burned down or I would have not survived that night. I mean, it was the scariest thing that ever happened to me. That's why I got into this so heavily. So I went through and removed all the dimmers, because this was dimmer switches that caused this. And my house is wired, it was by a jackleg, so I mean, there's all sorts of wiring errors. So when Ryan came to my house, he suggested I get this particular filter that's a whole house filter that goes out on your meter, under your meter on your main service. So I had a friend install it for me. It was costly, but then I could take all my filters out. It totally filtered my house, which means it filtered the smart meter as well. So it was like $1,200 for this filter.
So you filtered it from the source, therefore you.
From my
didn't-
source, yeah.
From your source, therefore you didn't have to do it in each little place in your
Right,
house.
so I could take all my filters out, a big bag of filters out. But, the way they wire, it used to be they wired where the power went in and came back out. And now it has, everybody has grounding, so it goes down to ground. And that's another thing, you gotta make sure your house is grounded too, because that can cause a problem. So there's just mismatching of electricity in most houses. Plus, if the house next door to you is messed up, that feeds up in the ground and can come up into your ground rod and into your house. So there's just so much out there. I mean, between the frequencies coming from cell towers and stuff in your walls, and I have a typo in your notes. Let me see. Well, under dirty electricity, it says keep the bed at least 2 meters from the wall. Well, I have on yours, keep it 2 feet from,
feet from
it
the
should be
wall.
meters.
Well, how much is meters?
That's 6 feet from the wall. How many people can put their bed 6 feet from the wall, okay?
No.
You're this size bed.
Yeah, that's how much you need to be away from things.
And 1 foot of the.
Just have the bed in the middle of the room.
That's right.
Change the way you organize it.
But 1 foot, and they have things called kill switches too that can de-energize a room. That's an option, but that's, again, requiring an electrician. The other option, which he asked me to do, which I have not gotten done yet because I don't have anyone to help me do it, and it's a major project, because I have a very large bedroom and it's my storeroom also, so there's a lot of stuff to move, and that's to paint it. There's a shielding paint. This is the best one that the GeoVital makes, and it's black, it's graphite paint, and you put a layer on the walls and ceiling of your room, and then you put a ground strip, a little metal strip that goes all the way around the room and on the ceiling, and then you paint another coat of black, then you put your primer on and your paint. So I mean, that's a lot of paint, a lot of work, a lot of effort, and then you have to ground that into an outlet, and the outlet has to be a metal box. And a lot of houses today have plastic boxes, so you gotta have someone replace it with a metal box and ground it. So it's a major project, and I haven't gotten there yet. But if your wiring in your house is bad, that's the only way you can shield it. Is you've gotta put a layer between you and your wiring. Or you can put, there's a fabric, I don't know if I mentioned it on there. the fabric that also, yeah, the shielding fabrics, those are very expensive too, because they're made out of, noble metals. And so you can hang them over windows or over doors and over that wall that's painted if you can't, paint all your doors and put shielding tape around it.
Don't metal screens on the windows help?
They have some benefit. Some people actually have walls that have the screen in behind them. But again, you've got a shield between the wiring and the bed. That's the problem. So how are you gonna plug things in if you've got that on it? It's very complicated and very expensive. This paint is not cheap. And you told me I could either do that or I could build, and I don't have the catalog that I was hoping to have, but there's like a shielding curtain that you can put around your bed. Looks kind of like a mosquito net. There's good ones and not so good ones. But again, it's about the same cost. You're going to spend $2,500 getting your room ready. So it's not. But from what I'm told, that's really all you can do to shield from 5G. That they're, the 3 and 4, it will shield from 3 and 4 for sure. But you've got to use this really good paint to shield 5G. So.
Okay, but isn't 5G a whole different animal than 4G? In other words, 5G is a much shorter,
It's more
pops-
penetrating.
Well, no, it's less penetrating, it only goes like skin deep.
Well, it penetrates water though. It affects our cells and that reverberates into our body.
Okay, I heard differently.
Well,
I
the
researched.
frequency itself doesn't penetrate, but it affects the cell, which has a chain
Oh.
reaction.
Cause
But
I heard, our skin's gonna be a problem in our eyes, because that's what
eyes, water,
comes
genitals.
in genitals.
There was I don't know if anybody, anywhere you've got a lot of water, your brain is one of them. There was a really interesting, YouTube thing that was on Facebook yesterday, and I shared it on my website. It was one of the guys that installs it.
So do we need a leaded chastity belt?
That's what Dr.
You
Cruz
do.
says. Dr. Cruz built his building with lead shielding around his structure.
Wow.
But this guy he was a pole climber, he's an installer for 5Gs. And he was telling you, or whoever he was talking to, how bad he felt about what they were doing because of what it was doing. And he described how the waves are and how they penetrate and all that. And he was saying, children are not gonna survive this. Especially, the adults are not gonna survive it, but the children, they're being exposed to it in utero.
Now, we're
How many
talking
moms sit
5G.
there with a cell phone or thing on their tummy or right next to them? So these children have been impacted before they were even born, and they've never known anything but electromagnetic fields. They use them as babysitters, so.
What about the airplane scanners, body scanners, that
Well,
people
that's just
go
one more form of
through?
radiation that we get, it's cumulative in our body every time.
I just don't
You
believe.
go
it.
flying and you get ready, think about now they use Wi-Fi in the planes. You're like driving around.
And then everybody
in a-
turns their phone on in the plane.
Yeah, it's like you're being in a microwave oven, because this is microwaves. EMFs are microwaves.
I just flew from California to Hobby, and my, coming down, it ruptured, blood vessels in my eardrum.
Well, some of that's the pressure too
Yeah.
from flying.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they didn't care.
But, most people have trouble with flying, and it's just because we're being bombarded, through the scanners, like you said, and then
Oh, I didn't go through that. I make them,
you get them to do the.
oh, yeah, and it pisses them off, but I refuse.
But getting in an airplane, plus the fact that last time I was on an airplane, they were spraying the pesticide in there before we even got out. They sprayed
Pesticide
between
inside the
flights.
plane.
That's horrible.
I mean, between the pesticides and the electromagnetic fields in a plane and Bluetooth and everything else,
They
I mean,
put
it's just
pesticide
horrendous.
inside the plane?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Even though it's domestic flight.
they don't care. Everybody's buggy. With this world, it thinks everything's about germs,
For lice and stuff like that, or possibly.
just anything. Everybody's bug crazy, they don't realize it's the terrain, not the bug. The bugs are there because our bodies are messed up. All those things belong in our body, we're not supposed to kill them off. We just need to bring the body into alignment so that the right things grow there. We have to be in a symbiotic relationship with them. And and I almost wore this shirt there's a lady named Michelle Small-Wright, I don't know if you've ever heard of her. She's a really quirky lady, she would be good in this breed. She has a farm, she makes, flower essences, and, does a lot of interesting things. But, she has a program called, what it was is you're aligning the microbes in your body to make them beneficial. So you're instead of fighting the bugs, you're making your bugs healthy so that they work in your body better. But really awesome. And I got this 30 years ago. So I mean, she was ahead of her time on learning about the biome, microbiome.
Is she in Houston?
No, she's in Virginia, West Virginia.
Diatomaceous earth is excellent.
Well, diatomaceous earth kills bugs.
Yes.
But that kills like parasites and things like that.
And a lot of radiation, heavy metals, all that stuff.
Yeah, but, and zeolites and humic acid, folic acid, you know, a lot of these binders are really good for chemicals and toxins and things like that. Making sure you've got plenty of water, good sleep, you eat right, you know, if your food is treating you bad, your body's not gonna respond properly. So we have what we call 7 pillars, and number 1 is fun, you know, just like when we started out here, we were all having fun. That's a health food. And then rest, she spells it out in freedom. It's fun, rest, exercise, environment, diet, outlook, and mindfulness. So all those, you know, you have to have all those things in balance before your body can be in balance. And there's still a hierarchy even that. You've got to have your digestive system working properly before you mess with hormones or thyroid or anything like that. You have to have that gut flora because that's our immune system. If you want to build your immune system, you've got to have a healthy gut. That's a challenge today. The foods, you know, the GMOs and all that stuff are killing our gut. So, you know, it all seems so doom and gloom, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, even though there's a lot of bad to it. Number 1, having the right attitude, of being aware of it, and trying to mitigate what you can, and not get caught up in the fear, because the fear will make you sick before anything else will. So, you know, learn as much as you can. I take all the classes I can. I did the 5G crisis summit. I couldn't watch it all. It was just too much at one time. So I got the series to watch the rest of it. But there's some excellent speakers in that, and you can go on and just look up 5gsummit.com. And there's also Body Electric Summit that talks a lot about a lot of different energetic things. This has got, I can't remember his name.
Timson, Robert Timson.
No, he's in Washington State. He's a doctor. He's German. Just right out of
It's
my
not
head.
Cruz.
No, Dr. And then there's also Nick Pinot, which I took his training. It's Electrosmog RX. He has a really excellent training you can watch. And then ElectroSense with Lloyd Burrell. The summit was good. He's kind of boring. The Power Perfect box, that's the box I had on my power line to block the dirty electricity. That's what that is, the Power Perfect box.